How did I go from hating speaking English in front of others to now loving, absolutely loving speaking English, doing it for a living, and not only that, helping learners from all over the world speak English clearly and confidently in their everyday interactions? How did that happen? This is what today's video is all about. I'm going to share with you my journey, how I improved my pronunciation. All right, let's get started. If this is your first time here, my name is Natalie. I'm an English teacher and I help English learners navigate their way to English fluency without fear or overwhelm. We're talking about my pronunciation journey and I'm going to use this metaphor throughout the video. I love metaphors. I just think that they really help us get a point across. And along my journey, there were many roadblocks, things that were in the way. And I had to get rid of those roadblocks to be able to move forward. And the very first one is what we call perfectionism. I know I'm going to be stepping on some toes today, but if you're a perfectionist like me, well, when it comes to pronunciation, I want it to sound perfect. I'm not always a perfectionist. That's funny. But for some reason, when I started dedicating myself to learning English, I wanted to sound exactly like a native speaker. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to sound American or British or Australian, whatever. I just wanted to sound like a native speaker. And that was so bad for me at the time. Having that goal right off the bat really got in the way because whenever I had to talk to people, whenever I had to speak English, I would freeze because I'm here thinking, yeah, my R didn't sound very American, or I didn't say this word a certain way. And perfectionism gives us anxiety, right? And what happens when we're anxious? We all know anxiety affects the way our brain works. We have reduced access to our working memory, which is responsible for linguistic processing, right? So feeling anxious leads you to feel stuck because you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. So that was the very first thing I had to work on. I had to accept the fact that I am Brazilian and I can't speak beautiful Brazilian English and be understood. And the funny thing is, as I began to accept my identity as a non-native speaker of English who is from Brazil, I began to feel more relaxed, less judged. I started not caring whether or not people knew where I'm from. Like, I'm just talking, communicating with people, right? Connection over perfection. And the funny thing is, as I began to accept my identity, things began to change because I was more relaxed and I started actually sounding more American. And to the point that sometimes I'm mistaken for an American. Of course, this is a video. You're not listening to my English like every day. I live in the US and people here know I'm not from here. I get caught a lot. Like, people know I'm not from here. This is a video. This is easier because I'm recording this. I'm talking about something I'm passionate about and I'm editing the video. So the point here is to say that when I let go of perfectionism, everything else became better and I became a better speaker. The second roadblock that I had to push out of my way was comfort. Yes, comfort. Okay, so here I am. I'm okay with sounding Brazilian. I don't care if I have an accent, a Brazilian accent. That's fine. But then I got too comfortable in the sense that I thought, oh yeah, I speak English fluently. I don't have to work on my pronunciation anymore. It's fine. People understand me. Okay, people were able to understand me, but I was mostly talking to other Brazilians. Of course they can understand me. And when I began interacting with people from all over the world, and especially native speakers, they had a hard time understanding me. I remember when I met my husband, for example, I was telling him that I'm a teacher, and somehow I started getting really passionate, right? I was like, yeah, teachers are like mediators. And instead of saying mediator, for some reason, I couldn't pronounce the vowels very well in that word. And I said something like mediator, mediator. He was asking if, what do you mean, meat eater? He understood like a meat eater, somebody who eats meat. I don't remember why. I just maybe wasn't articulating those vowels really well. But I remember thinking, wait a minute, I'm not done. I still have a lot to work on. Don't get too comfortable. There's always room for improvement. So once I realized that I had more to work on, I wasn't done. I was able to improve my pronunciation even more. Here's the third roadblock: instant results. Oh my goodness, I wanted everything to happen right now. I was getting so frustrated because I couldn't master the glottal stops fast enough. So, for example, here, mountain, written, written. This book was written by so and so. This book was written. I remember it took me 2 months to finally be able to pronounce glottal stops and integrate it into my everyday speech. And back then, I was getting really impatient because this is supposed to be easy, right? I mean, there's all these people online saying, oh yeah, I learned English in, I don't know, 6 months, and then I improved my pronunciation really quickly. I didn't have realistic expectations, even though I had been teaching for a couple years at least. And it's funny because in this world, right, we live in, we want instant results, but nothing is an overnight success story. Everything happens gradually. There are seasons, there are steps to our learning journey. So trying to skip ahead and do things fast isn't the best. I know we have deadlines, we have things we want to accomplish, achieve right away, but bear in mind that improving your pronunciation will take time. It takes commitment, it takes patience, a lot of patience. So once I let go of the expectation that I was going to master everything really quickly, that there was a secret formula that would make all my dreams come true, once I let go of that idea, things got better. I began tracking how long it took me to master sounds. So I mentioned that it took me 2 months to master glottal stops. It took me about a month to say world, world, world. Before I could say it as world, I would just use the British pronunciation and say world, around the world. That's what I did because that was easier for me. But then once I learned to say world, world, it took me a month. It took me a month and I did it. If I can do it, you can do it. But also, you don't have to. Just remember that. You have permission to choose whatever accent you want. All right, the fourth and last roadblock: pride. What do I mean by pride? Okay, now I'm very patient. My English sounds amazing. All the Americans here where I live understand me. Sometimes they mistake me for a native speaker. I'm feeling over the moon, right? Well, this is amazing, awesome. Now I'm talking to other non-native speakers who live in different parts of the world, and they have a hard time understanding me. Here I am using all of these idioms and yeah, using glottal stops. Written, this book was written. And then I notice these people are like, what did you say? Can you say it again? These are students from different parts of the world, and I see them, they're squinting, and I'm here trying to sound very American. But then I realize, wait, what is communication about? Communication. We have something in common. Community, right? I'm trying to build a community here. But if I'm not understood, no matter how native like I sound, that doesn't matter. Because improving your pronunciation means becoming clear to someone. So my pride got in the way in the sense that because I thought, well, I've worked so hard on my pronunciation to sound American, this is how I need to speak every time I speak English. And this is not true. There are times when I have to slow down, when I have to let go of my precious glottal stops so that someone can understand that I'm talking about a book that was written instead of written. Or even when I teach beginners, I'm currently at the college where I work, I teach beginners. I try not to use those glottal stops because I don't want to scare them. They're just starting out. I do mention these sounds to them so they get used to it, but it's like gradual. So my pride got in the way because it was making other people not understand me so well. And perhaps this happens to you, or maybe it hasn't happened. But the point here is to say that when I let go of my pride and thought more about the person listening to me, my communication skills really improved, because improving your pronunciation isn't about sounding native, sounding American or British or whatever. It's about making yourself understood. And I think this is maybe the biggest takeaway from today's video. Remember that improving your pronunciation is about making yourself clear, very clear. We all have goals that we want to accomplish. And if you want to sound like a native speaker, go for it. That's your goal. But also remember that there is a person out there who is longing to hear what you have to say. Think about them. Life is not just about me, right? It's about the other person. It's about everyone else. So this is what I want to leave you with today. And this is why I've created the Pronunciation Lab, this place where English learners can experiment with pronunciation. We focus on clarity. We focus on making pronunciation meaningful in a global English world. If you're interested, there's more information in the description below. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Thanks for watching.